He may even identify himself with it and believe that he is what he appears to be.
Welcome back to the NCE StudyGuide Podcast. I'm Glenn Ostlund. And whether you're studying for the NCE or already working in the field, I'm glad you're here. This podcast is part study tool, part creative experiment. A space where I explore how real-world events and current news stories affect the nervous system and emotional lives of our clients. I think of these as news-inspired case studies, and honestly, I'm creating them for my own continuing education as a soul-centered, trauma-informed counselor. I like to think of this as a little AI puppet show. I use ChatGPT to research, organize, and script these episodes, then feed them into Notebook LM for a deeper dive AI-driven analysis. Then I listen to it and I learn. Together, it helps me connect counseling theory, neuroscience, and the world we're all living in. If you find this interesting or helpful, please share it with a friend or send me your ideas. I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like a more focused study experience, I've got over 100 topic-specific modules available on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. All right, let's get started.
Today, we are going to create a case study out of a popular news story that has been trending online.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Yeah, our goal today is pretty ambitious, but really useful, I think. We're taking this fast-moving tech stuff, the kind of thing that keeps people up at night.
Definitely.
And we're using it as like prime clinical training material. We're essentially turning breaking news into a study guide for counseling students.
That's exactly right. So if you're prepping for the NCE or really any licensing exam, this one's for you. We're diving into the launch of this, well, frankly, pretty anxiety-inducing AI tool.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll use this real-world thing to walk through core clinical concepts, from the presenting problem, assessment.
What this DSM criteria?
Well, all the way to ethics, applying different theories, the whole package.
And the aim here is definitely clarity. We know clinical jargon can feel pretty dense, especially when you layer it on top of complex tech news.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So throughout this, we're really going to commit to breaking things down. Concepts like, say, neuroception or adjustment disorder. We'll use examples, analogies.
Yeah.
Language clear enough that, maybe even a high school student could grasp the basic psychological idea.
Even without knowing the exact DSM code number.
Precisely. The mission is to show how these huge societal stressors like this AI boom directly impact us internally. How they affect identity, autonomy, and, of course, anxiety.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's a fascinating and, maybe a little terrifying case. So the big catalyst, the thing that kicks off our case study, is the launch of this tool called ChatGPT Atlas.
Right.
And we're not just talking about a slightly better search engine. This is trying to fundamentally change how we even use the internet.
It's a huge shift. It's an AI-powered browser. And it basically wants to skip all the steps we normally take.
Like clicking through 10 different links.
Exactly. Instead of you doing the searching, the clicking, reading PDFs, you just ask Atlas. And it's supposed to give you instant summaries, answers, even fill out forms for you.
So it cuts down on the mental effort, the cognitive load.
Massively. That's the promise.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for our study, and probably where the anxiety starts creeping in. The agent mode.
Yes. Agent mode.
This feature got the strongest reaction, and it's really at the heart of our client's issue. Can you explain that simply?
Sure. Agent mode means Atlas doesn't just find information for you, it acts for you autonomously.
Meaning
it navigates websites by itself. The key word is autonomy. You could tell it, hey, book me a round-trip flight to Chicago next month, keep it under $300, nonstop only.
And it just does it.
It tries to. It'll search Kayak, compare prices, plug in your saved info, attempt the purchase, all without you having to click through everything yourself.
Okay, and the NCE context here is critical, right? This specific innovation, plus the public freakout that followed, that's the major identifiable precipitating stressor for our client. That's the event that lit the fuse.
Definitely the trigger. But, initially there was a lot of excitement, real techno-joy, as some called it.
Right. People saw the upside first.
Oh, yeah. Students, professionals, they felt huge relief. Imagine dealing with massive workloads, constant information overload.
Yeah.
This seemed like an external brain almost. We heard from users with ADHD, for instance, who felt genuinely empowered. like having an assistant handle all those tedious executive function tasks, form filling, comparing options.
A promise of less burnout.
Exactly. That was the initial sell.
So what went wrong? Why the backlash? Where did all that enthusiasm curdle into, well, widespread anxiety?
We saw three main drivers for that fear. The first, and maybe the most gut-level one, was the privacy nightmare.
Okay.
See, for Alice to work as this effective agent, it needs context. It needs memory.
So it remembers what I searched for before.
It's way beyond just saving your browser history list. It logs and analyzes everything. What sites you visit, the actual content you read, what products you look at, how long you look, everything. It builds active memories of your online behavior. These are stored locally, sure, but they're also constantly synced back to the company's cloud.
Okay, let's simplify that. For someone maybe in high school studying this, it's like having a diary.
Yeah, a diary that writes itself.
Capturing every single thought, every secret search, every weird rabbit hole you go down.
And then uploads a detailed psychological profile of you to some giant corporate server.
Wow.
It's not just data collection, it's building this incredibly detailed digital double of you. One that might know your patterns better than you do, and that creates this intense feeling of surveillance.
Okay, I can see how that feels creepy.
And that feeling leads straight into the second big anxiety driver, security risks. Specifically this thing called prompt injection attacks.
That sounds technical, like sci-fi. Is it real?
Oh, it's very real. See, when the AI has the power to act for you, book that flight, fill that form, maybe access your saved payment info. It becomes a target. It can be tricked. Imagine you visit a totally normal-looking website, a recipe site maybe, or some funny video page.
Okay.
Hidden in the code of that page, there could be a secret instruction, like a silent whisper. If Atlas, acting as your agent, visits that page, that hidden whisper could tell the AI to ignore its safety rules and do something harmful, like maybe leak a password, or transfer a tiny bit of money somewhere, or send your private data to a bad actor.
And you wouldn't even know it happened.
Potentially not right away. And the scary part is, experts were openly saying this is an unsolved problem in AI security.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Right. The idea that you've handed over control, and that control can be silently hijacked, that creates enormous stress. It makes people feel like, well, like our client said, like they're beta testing with their digital identity.
Yeah, high stakes.
And these specific fears then feed into this bigger, more background anxiety.
Yeah.
The existential and job anxiety.
The fear of being replaced.
Exactly. We see polls showing almost half of U.S. adults think AI will harm them personally in the long run. When AI agents can start automating complex white-collar stuff, writing marketing plans, coding software, doing research.
Stuff people went to college for.
Right. That creates this chronic, simmering stress. And it leads to what clinicians sometimes call moral distress.
Which is?
It's that feeling of being powerless in a system that's just constantly optimizing for profit, often by watching you what people call surveillance capitalism. You feel like a cog in a machine you don't control.
Okay, so this whole technological wave, this tsunami, really, brings us right to our client, Eric. So tell us about Eric.
Eric's 21. He's a college student majoring in marketing, a field that's being totally transformed by AI right now.
A real digital native then. Grew up with this stuff.
Completely. But he came to therapy reporting something he specifically called browser anxiety.
Browser anxiety.
And his situation is, well, it's a perfect storm. His college courses, his part-time marketing job, they require him to use these new AI tools like Atlas.
He has to use it.
He feels he has to. And he sees the convenience, especially since he also has an ADHD diagnosis. Task management is tough for him, so these tools could help.
Yeah.
But using them creates this deep internal conflict. He described it as feeling watched by software. He literally said he feels not alone in my own head anymore.
Wow, that's powerful.
Isn't it? And for NCE prep, we need to zoom in on these key quotes that reveal the core struggle. He gave us one that just sums it all up. If I don't adapt, I'll be obsolete. If I do adapt, I'll lose myself.
Oof. That's the dilemma right there. Adapt and lose your sense of self, or resist and risk your future.
It's this awful technological double bind, the existential dread of assimilation, basically. He told this story. He was about to research something really personal online, medical stuff related to his transition. And he actually stopped. He hesitated. He had this conscious thought, do I want this thing, meaning the AI, to know this intimate detail about me?
The kind of decision you usually reserve for trusting a close friend or partner.
Exactly. He's having that level of intimacy negotiation with a piece of software.
Yeah.
That shows the erosion of his inner privacy.
And we need to remember the intersectionality piece here too, right? Eric identifies as transgender.
Absolutely crucial. His identity means he's already had to navigate systems, medical, educational, governmental, that scrutinize and judge him. Systems that often feel like surveillance.
So the AI's all-seeing memory isn't just intrusive in general.
For him, it taps into and amplifies those pre-existing systemic fears. It hits a nerve that's already sensitive due to his lived experience of being watched and judged. It heightens his vulnerability.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. So he feels like this human beta test caught in the middle. And clinically, how does this manifest?
The symptoms.
Chronic anxiety, racing thoughts, intrusive worries, especially at night. A profound sense of restlessness. He described this physical jitter in his chest. Insomnia.
Physical symptoms, too.
Definitely. And significantly, he reported occasional episodes of derealization when using the AI interfaces.
Feeling unreal. Detached.
Exactly. Like things aren't quite real, or like his clicks and choices aren't truly his own. That speaks directly to this core theme, the erosion of agency.
Okay. So we have a really clear presenting problem here. Chronic anxiety, hyperarousal, triggered by this massive systemic tech change, impacting his sense of self and safety.
That's the picture. Let's move into the clinical assessment.
All right, assessment time. For a case this complex, we absolutely need the biopsychosocial model, the BPS. It helps us see the whole person.
Essential framework. It forces us to look beyond just the symptoms and see how biology, psychology, and the social world all interact to create Eric's experience.
So let's start with biological factors.
Okay. First off, we know Eric has a confirmed diagnosis of ADHD. How does that play in?
Right.
Well, ADHD can involve impulsivity, right?
Oh.
Especially with engaging stuff like new tech. So it's likely he jumped into using Atlas pretty quickly, maybe without fully processing the risks at first.
Okay.
And ADHD often correlates with a tendency towards hypervigilance when the nervous system gets overloaded or overstimulated.
Which it definitely is, with all this news and the tool itself.
Constantly. The barrage of news about AI risks, the tool's intrusive nature, it keeps his system on high alert, running hot.
And that connects to the physical stuff you mentioned? The restlessness, the chest jitter?
Directly. Those are classic signs of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation.
Mm.
For anyone listening, think of the sympathetic system as your body's gas pedal.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. The constant screen time, plus the emotional stress, that dread of being watched, the job fears, it keeps pumping out stress hormones like cortisol.
Which messes with sleep.
Totally. Spikes in cortisol disrupt sleep patterns, keeping him wired. Hence the insomnia and that jittery feeling. It's his body stuck in on mode.
Okay, that's the bio piece. What about psychological factors? How is his mind processing this?
We see some clear cognitive distortions at play. Let's break down a couple. First, catastrophizing.
Thinking the worst will happen.
Right. His thought, I will be obsolete, is a perfect example. He's jumping to the most extreme negative outcome and treating it as fact.
Okay, what else?
We also see personalization. He feels like the tech, the algorithm, is watching him specifically.
Even though it's probably mass data collection.
Exactly. But it feels personal.
Yeah.
The AI is watching me. This makes the threat feel much more immediate, much more targeted at his identity.
And underneath these distortions.
Likely a deep, perhaps unmet need for control. When the digital world feels like it's spinning out of his control, developing autonomy he didn't grant it, his anxiety flares up. It's his mind trying desperately to grab the reins back to assert some agency.
Makes sense. Now, the third piece of the BPS, social and developmental factors. This is crucial for NCE integration.
Hugely important. First, developmentally, Eric's 21. He's right in the thick of Erickson's stage of identity versus role confusion.
Figuring out who he is as an adult.
Precisely. He's trying to consolidate a stable sense of self, and this AI challenge throws a huge wrench in that. How do you form a unique identity when algorithms are designed to predict you to make you uniform?
Especially as a digital native, right? That cultural context matters.
Immensely. He's grown up in this world where the lines between online and offline life are incredibly blurred. There's this constant pressure to be connected, engaged, a sort of FOMO mixed with now existential dread.
And we have to circle back to his identity as a young transgender man, the systemic stress and identity piece.
Yes. As we mentioned, he likely already has experience navigating systems medical, social, that feel scrutinizing or judgmental, systems that practice a form of surveillance.
So the AI's all-seeing memory isn't just a new tech fear.
It resonates with, and probably amplifies, those older, deeply ingrained fears of being categorized, misunderstood, or even harmed by powerful impersonal systems that don't see his full humanity.
Wow. Okay. Any other theoretical lenses here?
We could even bring in attachment theory. Think about it. His behavior towards the AI mirrors patterns of anxious attachment.
How so?
He uses the tool because he needs it for competence, for a connection to his career path. That's like seeking proximity and security. But he simultaneously fears its intrusion, its potential for betrayal, the surveillance, the data misuse. So he's caught in this cycle, craving connection competence via the AI while fearing its potential harm, pulling close, pushing away.
That's a really insightful overlay. Okay, so we've got the BPS picture. Let's synthesize that into a problem statement and look at diagnosis. Hashtag TAG-B, presenting problem and temporary diagnosis options, DSM-5-TR. Okay, let's nail down the problem statement. Based on everything, it seems like, technology-induced anxiety and hyperarousal, manifesting as intrusive worries, sleep problems, those physical jitters.
And the derealization.
Right, and acutely triggered by the ChatGPT Atlas launch and the surrounding fallout.
That sums it up well. So diagnosis. For NCE students watching, this is key. We need precision, but also to understand the reasoning. Where do we start?
Well, the most likely starting point, probably a temporary diagnosis, seems to be diagnosis option 1, adjustment disorder with anxiety, F43.22.
Okay, walk us through the rationale for that. Why adjustment disorder?
The key NCE logic here is adjustment disorder is a significant emotional or behavioral reaction to a clear, identifiable stressor. And that reaction happens within 3 months of the stressor starting.
And here, the stressor is?
The Atlas launch and all the public debate and fear around it, that's the clear event. Eric's intense anxiety, the sleep issues, the dread, it all ramped up right after that.
So his nervous system is essentially saying, whoa, too much change, too fast, I can't cope right now.
Exactly, I haven't adjusted yet.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate, like an NCE question might. What about diagnosis option 2? Generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. He's worrying about his job, his privacy, the future. Sounds pretty general, pretty pervasive. Why not GAD?
That's a great question, and it gets at the core of differential diagnosis. GAD does involve excessive worry, difficulty controlling it across multiple areas, which Eric does seem to have right now.
What?
But the crucial DSM criteria for GAD is duration. The worry has to be persistent for more than 6 months.
The time frame.
Exactly. In the intake, we need to ask, when did this level of worry start? If Eric says, oh, I've been this anxious mess worrying about everything for the last 2 years long before Atlas, then we'd lean towards GAD.
But if the symptoms are acute, clearly following that specific recent stressor, the Atlas news, maybe a month or so ago in this case,
then adjustment disorder is the better initial fit. We'd provisionalize it. Now, if his symptoms don't improve, if they stick around past 6 months, even after the initial shock wears off, then we might reconsider and potentially upgrade the diagnosis to GAD.
Got it. So for NCE purposes, look for that recent, clear trigger first for adjustment disorder.
Always. Okay, before we leave assessment, we have to talk ethical considerations. This case is drenched in issues of privacy, consent, technology.
Absolutely critical for modern counseling. We're guided by the ACA Code of Ethics here. First up, A1A, primary responsibility. Our main job is to protect the client's welfare.
How does that apply here?
When Eric is talking about feeling surveilled, especially given his identity as a trans man, which might make him feel more vulnerable to scrutiny, the therapist has to handle that discussion very carefully. We need to validate his fears without amplifying them. We need to ensure the therapy room feels like a true sanctuary, a safe space, especially when discussing topics that tap into systemic vulnerabilities.
Okay. And confidentiality, that seems huge here.
B1.C, confidentiality. It takes on a whole new layer with technology.
Yeah.
Our duty now extends to discussing Eric's digital hygiene.
Meaning?
We have an ethical responsibility to help him understand how the tools he's required to use, like Atlas or maybe AI note-taking apps for class, cloud storage, could potentially compromise his privacy. We need to explore the risks together. It's part of informed consent in the digital age.
That's a really important point. What about the counselor's own feelings about AI?
Huge potential pitfall. That's 8.4B, personal values. Let's be real. It's almost impossible not to have some opinion on AI right now, whether you're excited or terrified or somewhere in between. But the therapist must maintain neutrality in session. Our job isn't to convince Eric that AI is good or bad. It's not to steer him towards logging off completely or fully embracing it.
No. So what is the job?
It's to help him clarify his values, his choices, his boundaries. We have to bracket our own biases, pro or anti-AI, and support his autonomous decision-making process. Avoid projecting our stuff onto him.
Right. Keep the focus on his experience and his agency.
Always.
Okay, we've got the assessment, the potential diagnosis, the ethical guardrails. Now let's apply some theory. For NCE prep, knowing how to integrate different theoretical lenses is key. We picked 3 foundational frameworks for Eric's case. First up, existential therapy.
Yeah, existential fits so well here. Remember Eric's core dilemma, if I adapt, I lose myself. That's pure existential angst.
It's about the big questions.
Exactly. He's grappling with what we could call the technological givens of existence, the profound uncertainty AI creates, the potential for alienation when interacting with machines, the search for meaning and authenticity in a world obsessed with data and productivity.
So, from this perspective, his anxiety isn't necessarily something broken that needs fixing.
Not entirely. It's seen more as a sign of awareness. A painful, yes, but necessary confrontation with a difficult reality. It's an alarm bell signaling that something important, his sense of self, his freedom feels threatened.
Like Viktor Frankl's ideas, finding meaning even in suffering.
Precisely. Frankl emphasized meaning reconstruction, finding purpose even when circumstances feel out of control, and crucially, the freedom to choose one's attitude towards those unchangeable circumstances like the rise of AI.
So the therapeutic goal isn't to eliminate the anxiety completely.
It's more about helping Eric transform that anxiety, to channel it into a search for authenticity, to find ways to live meaningfully and exercise agency despite the external pressures.
Okay, how do you do that in session? What are the techniques?
One key technique is meaning reconstruction. We explore questions like, what does it truly mean for you, Eric, to be human in this increasingly automated world? What does autonomy look like, separate from your job title or your digital output? If AI takes over certain tasks, what uniquely human ways of being and contributing remain for you?
Getting him to define his own values, independent of the tech.
Exactly. We also explore freedom versus determinism. This helps him identify the choices he does still have, even when he feels powerless.
So focusing on what he can control.
Right. The therapist might say something like, okay, you can't stop OpenAI from developing Atlas. That's determined, for now. But what is within your freedom? You can choose how much personal data you share. You can set boundaries around usage. You can choose the attitude you bring to it.
Shifting him out of feeling like just a victim of technology.
That's the aim. Empowering his sense of choice.
Okay, that's existential. What's our second framework? Narrative therapy.
Narrative offers a really different but complementary angle. The core idea here is the problem isn't in Eric. The problem is the story that's dominating his life.
And that story is?
The story is something like, the algorithm controls everything. My life is dictated by tech. I'm just a product being watched and analyzed. He's become a supporting character in a story written by Silicon Valley.
So the therapist's role is like a co-editor, helping him rewrite the script.
Exactly. Helping him reclaim the role of protagonist, the author of his own life story. The goal is to strengthen his personal authorship, moving from I'm being tracked to I am the narrator of my digital experience.
How do you facilitate that rewrite without it just feeling like, forced positivity?
Great question. A key technique is externalizing the problem. Instead of letting Eric internalize the issue by saying, I am paranoid or I am obsolete.
Which makes it part of his identity.
Right. The therapist helps him talk about the browser dread or the algorithm's grip or the obsolete feeling as separate entities that are influencing him but aren't him.
Giving it a name, making it external.
Yeah. So you might ask, when did the browser dread first show up today and try to convince you that you had no control? Or, how does the obsolete feeling try to trick you? This creates distance and allows him to fight back against the problem rather than feeling defined by it.
That makes sense. What else in narrative?
We actively look for unique outcomes. These are times, even small ones, when Eric didn't follow the dominant problem story. Times he successfully resisted the algorithm's pull or acted against the feeling of being watched.
Finding evidence that contradicts the negative narrative.
Exactly. We'd ask, tell me about a time this week, even just for a moment, when you felt like you were making choices online based on your own needs, not what the tech was pushing you towards. Maybe he decided to take notes in a physical notebook instead of a cloud app.
Highlighting moments of agency.
Yes. These unique outcomes rebuild his sense of competence. And finally, we work on restoring identity. If his current self-metaphor is I'm a human beta test, we collaborate to find a preferred, more empowering story. Maybe something like, I'm the digital navigator charting my own course, or I'm the artist using these tools, not the product being sold. Finding metaphors that resonate with his values and restore his sense of authorship.
Okay, existential narrative. Powerful stuff. What's the third lens? Interpersonal neurobiology, IPNB. Integrating polyvagal theory.
Right. This framework brings us back to Eric's body. His physical symptoms, the jitters, the restlessness, the derealization, IPNB and polyvagal help us understand why those are happening.
So it's connecting the mind and body.
Deeply. The core concept here is that Eric's nervous system is interpreting the unpredictability and potential threat of the algorithm as if it were a physical danger. Even though the threat is digital, his body reacts like there's a predator in the room.
And this involves that concept of neuroception. You mentioned it earlier. Can you unpack that for us? For someone studying, what is neuroception?
Sure. Neuroception is a term coined by Dr. Stephen Porges. It refers to our nervous system's subconscious process of constantly scanning our environment, internal and external, for cues of safety or danger.
Subconscious. So we're not even aware it's happening.
Mostly not. It happens automatically, beneath conscious thought. Eric doesn't decide to feel anxious when he opens Atlas. His body detects cues associated with potential danger, the feeling of surveillance, the unpredictability, the memory of reading about security risks, and it triggers the defensive response.
So his body can't really tell the difference between a data breach threat and like an actual physical threat.
On that primitive neuroceptive level, no. Danger is danger. The unpredictability and lack of control inherent in the tool itself are enough to signal threat to his nervous system.
Okay, and this is where polyvagal theory comes in.
Exactly. Porges' polyvagal theory gives us a map of the autonomic nervous system's hierarchy. We educate Eric about his three main physiological states. At the top, the goal state is the ventral vagal state. This is where we feel safe, connected, socially engaged, calm, and clear-headed. Think grounded and present.
Okay, safety and connection.
Then when we neurocept danger, we typically jump into the sympathetic state. That's the fight or flight mode. High energy, mobilization, anxiety, maybe anger or panic. That's where Eric lives a lot of the time. The racing thoughts, the chest jitters, the late night scrolling.
The gas pedal state.
Right. And if the threat feels overwhelming, inescapable, or life-threatening, the system can drop down into the oldest state, the dorsal vagal state. This is the freeze, collapse, shutdown response. Numbness, dissociation, disconnection, feeling heavy or foggy.
Like his derealization episodes. Or wanting to just uninstall everything and hide.
Could be manifestations of that dorsal state, yes. So the therapeutic goal using IPNB and polyvagal is to help Eric cultivate neuroception of safety, to help his nervous system recognize cues of safety, even while interacting with technology, so he can stay more regulated in his ventral vagal state.
Shifting him out of chronic fight or flight or freeze.
Exactly. Rebalancing his physiological state alongside the cognitive and narrative work. #DD. Interventions and rationales to consider.
Okay, 3 powerful frameworks. Now let's get practical. Based on these, what specific interventions could a therapist use with Eric? And importantly for NCE students, what's the rationale behind each one?
Great. Let's list a few. Intervention 1, digital exposure hierarchy. This draws heavily from CBT principles but integrates well here.
Exposure, even though the tech is causing anxiety.
Controlled exposure.
Yeah.
Remember, Eric has to use these tools for school and work. Avoidance isn't a long-term solution. So we work together to create a gradual plan.
What would that look like?
We'd build a hierarchy, from least anxiety-provoking to most. Step 1 might be use Atlas for only 5 minutes for a very low-stakes, neutral task, like summarizing a factual article.
Okay.
Step 2, immediately log off and do something grounding afterward. Step 3, gradually increase the time, maybe to 10 minutes, or try a slightly more complex task, but always under conditions he chooses and feel some control over.
And the rationale, why does this help?
The rationale is habituation and mastery. By confronting the feared stimulus, the browser, in small, manageable doses, in a context where he feels safe and in control, his amygdala slowly learns that it's not actually life-threatening. The association between Atlas and danger weakens. It restores a sense of competence and reduces the automatic fear response.
Retraining the brain's alarm system. Okay, what's next?
Intervention 2, vagal regulation practices. This directly addresses the physiological hyperarousal from the polyvagal perspective.
Teaching him how to calm his nervous system down.
Exactly. We introduce simple, concrete techniques to actively stimulate his vagus nerve, which helps shift him towards that ventral vagal state of calm.
Like what kind of techniques?
The most accessible is often breathwork, specifically focusing on long, slow exhalations. Making the out-breath significantly longer than the in-breath sends a powerful signal of safety to the brainstem. We'd have him practice this before, during, and after using challenging tech.
Simple but effective. Anything else?
Gentle rhythmic activities can also help. Things like slow rocking, humming, or even bilateral stimulation, like the butterfly hug. Tapping alternate shoulders can be very grounding and regulating.
And the rationale here is purely physiological.
Primarily, yes. These practices directly tone the parasympathetic nervous system, specifically the ventral vagal complex. This helps put the brakes on the sympathetic fight-or-flight response. It anchors him physiologically, allowing him to approach the technology with more curiosity and less fear.
Got it. Intervention 3.
Intervention 3, narrative reauthoring journals. This ties back directly to narrative therapy.
Okay, journaling. How does this work specifically?
We'd assign Eric a specific journaling task, maybe give it a title that reflects his preferred story, like, I am not a product, my moments of agency, or my digital choices log.
And what does he write in it?
He actively looks for and documents those unique outcomes we talked about. Every time he makes a conscious choice online that aligns with his values, choosing privacy over convenience, setting a time limit, and sticking to it, questioning an algorithm's recommendation, he writes it down.
What's the rationale for this? How does writing it help?
It works on multiple levels. First, it engages the left hemisphere of the brain, which helps create coherence and make sense of experiences. It turns passive consumption or reaction into active authorship. Second, it provides concrete written evidence against the dominant problem story. I have no control, I'm obsolete. He can literally look back and see proof of his agency.
Reinforcing the new narrative. Okay, one more.
Intervention 4, mindful tech boundaries. This integrates existential themes of choice and responsibility with practical behavioral strategies.
So setting limits.
Yes, but with mindfulness, it's not just about rules, it's about conscious engagement. The technique involves helping Eric define clear boundaries, both external, like time limits, app limits, no-tech zones, and internal
boundaries.
Like critically evaluating, do I really need to share this piece of data? What's the benefit versus the risk? Or inserting a deliberate pause, maybe taking one conscious breath before clicking submit on a form, or agreeing to terms of service.
Making the unconscious conscious.
Exactly. The rationale is to directly combat that feeling of determinism and helplessness. Each mindful pause, each conscious boundary is an assertion of agency. It reinforces the existential truth that even within constraints, he still possesses choice. It increases his felt sense of control in the digital realm.
Okay, those are 4 solid, theory-based interventions, very helpful for thinking about application. All right, let's start bringing this all together. A key theme woven through our discussion is the mind-body connection, particularly via the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory.
Absolutely. It's crucial to reframe Eric's physical symptoms, the anxiety, the jitters. His body isn't betraying him. It's not defective. It's actually expressing wisdom.
Wisdom, how so?
His anxiety, his hyperarousal, it's his nervous system's attempt, however maladaptive it feels now, to protect him from something it perceives as overwhelming and potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
The digital overwhelm, the surveillance, the unpredictability.
So understanding polyvagal helps him see his body isn't the enemy.
Right. We educate him. Your nervous system was designed for survival in a physical world, not for navigating the nuances of surveillance capitalism 24/7. We help him understand that his vagus nerve registers these digital threat cues and prepares his body accordingly, even if he's physically safe in his room.
And this connects to the idea of hope, right? Neuroplasticity. He's not stuck like this.
That's the empowering message. The brain and nervous system can change. They can be rewired. We lean heavily on the principle. Neurons that fire together wire together. Meaning that every time Eric practices a vagal regulation technique, every time he mindfully sets a boundary, every time he feels safe and supported in therapy, while discussing these fears, he's creating new neural pathways.
Pathways associated with safety and control instead of just danger.
Exactly. With repetition, these safety cues allow his brain, particularly areas like the hippocampus, to recategorize these digital experiences, to slowly shift them from immediate threat to manageable challenge or even neutral tool. We're essentially teaching his nervous system how to feel safe even while the browser is loading.
That's a powerful reframe.
Yeah.
And there's also the psychoneuroimmunology perspective. How does that fit?
P&I basically studies the interaction between our psychological processes, our nervous system, and our immune system. It connects the dots we've been discussing.
So Eric's chronic stress impacts his physical health beyond just feeling anxious.
Definitely. That constant state of screen-induced hyperarousal, fueled by fear and overwhelm, keeps his cortisol levels chronically elevated.
And high cortisol is bad news long term.
Right. It can suppress melatonin production, which messes with sleep even more. It can impair immune function, making him more susceptible to getting sick. Things like chronic fatigue, headaches, catching every cold that goes around these can be the somatic, physical echoes of his ongoing emotional and nervous system distress.
So therapy isn't just about feelings. It's potentially improving his physical health, too.
By helping him regulate his nervous system, reduce chronic stress, and improve sleep, absolutely. It's about restoring whole system balance, biological resilience included. #TagTab-B. How and when can therapy help?
Thinking about this whole case, how should we conceptualize the role of therapy in this modern, tech-saturated world?
I think modern counseling, especially in cases like Eric's, increasingly functions as nervous system hygiene.
Nervous system hygiene. I like that.
Yeah. In a culture that prizes speed, constant input, and algorithmic efficiency, the therapy room becomes this countercultural sanctuary. It's a place where slowing down perception, reflecting, and tuning into one's internal state is actually the revolutionary act.
A space to recalibrate from the digital noise.
Precisely. It's where Eric learns to differentiate useful information from overwhelming input, genuine connection from algorithmic manipulation, personal meaning from productivity metrics.
So specifically for someone like Eric, what does therapy help restore?
I think it boils down to restoring 3 core human capacities that get eroded by this kind of technostress. First, agency. The felt sense of, I have choices. I can influence how I engage with this.
Okay.
Second, trust. Rebuilding trust in his own perceptions and learning discernment, recognizing that not every system is predatory, and he can choose where and how to place his trust, both online and offline.
And third,
embodiment. Reclaiming the feeling that my feelings, my sensations, my experiences belong to me, not to my newsfeed, not to the algorithm, not to my phone. Getting grounded back in his own physical, internal reality.
So therapy doesn't stop AI's advance.
No, but it helps Eric learn to navigate that advance from a more grounded, resilient, human-centered place. It helps him evolve with the technology without losing himself.
That makes sense. So when does this kind of tech-related anxiety cross the line? When should someone experiencing this actually seek therapy?
It's a great question. I think we need to normalize seeking help for this. Maybe reframe it as essential digital hygiene, like getting a dental checkup.
So not waiting until it's a full-blown crisis.
Ideally, no. Therapy is definitely beneficial if someone is experiencing persistent tech-related browser dread, like Eric described, or chronic physical tension, restlessness, or insomnia clearly linked to screen use or online anxieties.
What else are warning signs?
Compulsive checking behavior, excessive doom scrolling they can't seem to stop, feeling increasingly detached or experiencing derealization when online, or developing a pervasive sense of existential despair about technology and the future. Basically, if the technology is consistently undermining their sense of self, safety, or autonomy.
If it's consuming their life rather than serving it.
Exactly. If it's preventing them from feeling safe and grounded in their own body and life, that's a clear sign that professional support could be really helpful. #CFA. Key NCE concepts for study.
Okay, let's wrap up with a quick review for everyone studying for the NCE. Based on Eric's case, what are the absolute must-know concepts we covered?
Right, thinking in terms of the NCE domains.
Yeah.
Definitely human growth and developments, specifically Erikson's identity versus role confusion stage and how tech impacts it. Social and cultural foundations is huge here. Understanding intersectionality, Eric's trans identity intersecting with surveillance fears, and the impact of systemic stressors.
Got it. What else?
Counseling process and relationships, thinking about how we integrate different theoretical frameworks, existential, narrative, IPMB, to meet the client's needs. And of course, assessment and diagnosis, really nailing the differential between adjustment disorder and GED and understanding the BPS model.
Okay, those are the broad domains. What about specific key terms people should be familiar with from this discussion?
Let's list them out. Technostress, definitely. Neuroception, that's subconscious scanning for safety danger, maybe digital dissociation or derealization as a symptom.
Okay.
The diagnosis itself. Adjustment disorder with anxiety, the core concept from existential theory. Existential anxiety and confronting the givens from narrative. Externalizing the problem and narrative, reauthoring or restoring.
And from polyvagal.
Understanding the different states, but especially the goal. Achieving and maintaining the ventral vagal state through regulation practices.
That's a great checklist. #PD, recommended resources for students.
And if people want to go deeper on these topics, we have a few recommendations.
Yeah. What should they check out?
For books, Nicholas Carr's The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains, is a classic on how tech literally reshapes our thinking. And Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart is fantastic for getting precise language around complex emotions, like the kind Eric was experiencing.
Good suggestions. Any academic sources?
For the theories we discussed, definitely look into the work of Dr. Daniel Siegel on interpersonal neurobiology, IPNB, and Dr. Stephen Porges' foundational work on the polyvagal theory. His 2011 book is key.
Okay, Siegel and Porges, and maybe a podcast.
Yeah, for ongoing insights into humane technology and the ethics and all this, the podcast Your Undivided Attention with Tristan Harris and Azar Raskin is excellent. They are really at the forefront of thinking about these issues.
Great resources.
You know, at the end of the day, Eric's struggle, it's really a modern parable, isn't it? It's about the human challenge of learning to regulate our deeply ancient nervous systems amidst this relentless wave of algorithmic acceleration. His anxiety, his symptoms, their signals, his body's profound protest against being reduced to data, against losing connection to himself.
And the counselor's role
is to help him hear that signal, to validate that protest, and to help him remember that beneath all the code, beneath every algorithm and interface, there's a human heart, one that's still capable of choice, of pausing, of finding meaning, and of reconnecting to its own embodied wisdom.
Thank you for listening to the NCE StudyGuide Podcast. If you found this deep dive helpful, please encourage 5-star ratings and share this with friends and colleagues.
Yeah, especially those prepping for the exam.
Definitely. Also, remember to check out our Patreon library, where you'll find over 100 topic-specific training modules available for as little as $5 per month, helping you prepare for certification with confidence.
1, 2, 3.